The highly contagious Delta variant of the CCP virus is challenging China. In the flood-hit city of Zhengzhou, a total lockdown leaves residents short on food at home. Some spotted shouting for help from their buildings. Trust in Chinese-made vaccines seems low in China. Authorities are using every strategy to get people vaccinated, including incentives like cash rewards. And for outside China, Chinese Communist Party head Xi Jinping promised to provide 2 billion doses of CCP virus vaccines to other countries this year. The Biden administration approves its first arms sale to Taiwan. The transaction is valued at $750 million. And American investors are worried as Beijing cracks down on Chinese-owned companies. We look into what's behind the effort. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The highly contagious Delta variant of the Chinese Communist Party virus, or coronavirus, led to new restrictions in the U.S. and other countries. It's also challenging China. And Beijing is responding with the same strategy as last year, isolating cities, putting neighborhoods under strict lockdown. The so-called zero-tolerance strategy of quarantine is impacting people's lives. Officials say the latest surge of the CCP virus has struck more than half of China, mostly the Delta variant. As of Wednesday, nearly 150 areas across the country are defined as high or mid-risk zones, the most since earlier this year. Chinese authorities say the first Delta-infected patient was diagnosed in late July, and now the confirmed cases exceed the total of the first 5 months. The Delta variant was first spotted in an airport in the eastern city of Nanjing. 2 weeks later, the city started its fourth round of mass testing of its 9 million residents. Beijing, Shanghai, and Wuhan began seeing Delta variant cases in the past days. Last week, Beijing made its first pandemic update in the past 6 months. Now, 24 cities have stopped their train ticket sales to Beijing. Also on Wednesday, financial hub Shanghai City confirmed that the new case from 2 days ago is a Delta variant. The spread of the Delta variant of the CCP virus is showing no mercy in the flood-hit city of Zhengzhou. And authorities have come under fire for their harsh lockdown measures. In a video circulating online on Tuesday, local residents appear to shout for help over a food shortage amid lockdowns. An insider explains online that the exit of the building in the video was blocked and takeaway couriers could not deliver. Many residents were running out of food in their homes. But local authorities on Wednesday denied the video as real. One official saying he hasn't slept for 5 days in a row, working to help residents. And other officials saying the video is just a rumor. But this rhetoric received backlash online. Some Chinese netizens wrote on social media, saying there is the video as evidence. Clearly, it's not a rumor. And someone else wrote, 5 days without sleep, I don't believe it. These officials should reflect on what they have done for the people, from the floods to the epidemic. As Zhengzhou City reels from severe flooding weeks ago, city officials on Saturday ordered mass COVID tests for all 10 million residents. In Wuhan, the situation is getting serious. Earlier this week, Wuhan authorities built more than 30,000 isolation wards for people who have had close contact with confirmed cases. And within 2 days, more than 26,000 of them have been occupied. Another 9,000 wards are being built right now. The official data about Wuhan's outbreak shows another picture. Every day, only a handful are added to the list of confirmed cases. We cannot verify these numbers independently, considering the Chinese Communist Party's history of cover-ups during last year's outbreaks. The real numbers could be much higher. Some people in China say they have no faith in Chinese-made vaccines, but the authorities are trying all means to get people vaccinated, including with cash rewards.
A video clip is circulating widely online. It appears to show that after a Chinese resident took China's homegrown vaccine, a large area of skin turned black. He described the development of the discoloration.
It started to go dark here on the 3rd day after my vaccination, the 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day. On the 5th day after the vaccination, it turned into this. Is anybody else like this? Look, it's really horrible.
Shanghai resident Ms. Huang disclosed problems her friend got after he took the Chinese-made vaccine.
A friend of mine suffered serious side effects. After the first dose, the doctor advised him not to get the second. His body and feet are inflamed, rotting, and filled with pus. He went to the local government for help, but they told him, "You took the vaccine at your own risk."
Chinese authorities have been trying to vaccinate people in China. Some local authorities force people to get vaccinated. Unvaccinated residents are not allowed to go to work or grocery stores and other public venues. Meanwhile, authorities in some provinces and cities are offering benefits to attract people to get vaccinated. Some areas have been issued cash subsidies. The authorities of a village in eastern China's Zhejiang province offer an $80 subsidy for each person who gets vaccinated.
The village chief offers the money to people of Baoyi village who have registered permanent residents here.
The megacity Shanghai also offers subsidies to its residents. A village in Baoshan district offered a subsidy about $50 and a barrel of oil to people who get fully vaccinated. Vaccination subsidies vary across different districts of Shanghai.
Some received a barrel of oil, some got other things, and some got lottery tickets. The highest lottery winner got $1,000, but they regretted it after vaccination, especially now that most of the confirmed cases in Nanjing City have been fully vaccinated before. So what is it for?
She said the data from Phase 3 clinical trials of Chinese-made vaccines isn't complete yet, and no one wants to be a lab rat. However, some netizens posted an emergency notice online, issued by schools in a county in Jiangxi province. It says from Tuesday to the coming Sunday, middle school students aged 15 to 17 must be vaccinated. Nobody are to be left out.
The head of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, said on Thursday China is aiming to provide 2 billion doses of the CCP virus vaccines to other countries this year. That's according to state-run broadcaster CCTV. A foreign ministry spokesman said in July that China had already supplied over 700 million vaccine doses to other countries. According to a World Health Organization study, Chinese-made vaccine Sinovac has an efficacy rate of 51%. The first journalist jailed for exposing Beijing's virus cover-up is on a hunger strike. Zhang Zhan's mother said Zhang has lost a lot of weight and is now under 90 pounds since her hunger strike. In addition to malnutrition, Zhang's legs and feet are also very swollen. Zhang was sentenced to 4 years in prison in December last year for, as the Chinese court called it, picking quarrels and provoking trouble. Earlier last year, Zhang shared videos online about what was happening in Wuhan, ground zero of the CCP virus pandemic. Her first-hand accounts of crowded hospitals and empty streets, paired with local interviews, painted a dire picture of the city. This kind of coverage could not be seen in China's state-run media. It stopped when she was detained by police in May last year. Authorities accused her of provoking trouble. It's a charge often used against those who disrupt the communist regime's narrative, including Chinese human rights activists and reporters. Zhang is one of several citizen journalists who have run into trouble for reporting on Wuhan. China has come under fire for its early handling of the pandemic, with Beijing accused of failing to warn the world about how bad the situation was and not suspending its international flights early enough. Survivors of Zhengzhou's floods are eager to hear from their missing relatives, while some hold out hope they'll find them stranded somewhere alive. Others say they've accepted that their sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers will probably never make it back.
As the floods recede, desperate survivors are trying to find their missing relatives. Chinese media, the paper, constantly updating a missing list. A mother of 3 was washed away in floods near her village, and the flooded area is now locked down. A man in his 40s disappeared by the village river while volunteering on the rescue effort. An 18-year-old girl lost contact with her family in floods, now confirmed dead. Another 18-year-old was alone at home when the floods came, and she's still missing. And the list goes on. The New York Times also tells us some stories from the flood victims. The day of the flooding, Miss Chen was at home with her husband and their 3-year-old grandson. In just a few minutes, the water reached their waists. They waited for hours on their roof before the floods finally receded. They witnessed 3 of their neighbors being washed away. No one has seen them since. A 12-year-old boy, Jan, was on the official missing list. His grandma told the New York Times He told us he would just take a quick look at the floods, but he never made it back. Mr. Zhang is said to still be looking for his father and 4 other relatives. He told the outlet it was too late to find them during the flood, as the torrent swelled to at least 5 feet deep, saying, "It was the first time in my life that I saw such a big flood." He still carries hope that they are just trapped somewhere, unable to reach him because of a power failure. A Zhengzhou resident, Miss Liu, reportedly lost contact with her husband for days. They are expecting their 3rd child. She said, "I'm still waiting and carry hope." He is a responsible husband. 2 teenage boys were reported missing, and their parents pleaded for help on social media. Photos of the boys quickly circulated online. They are now confirmed dead. The sister of one of the boys posted online about an odd experience she'd had, saying she was notified twice of her brother's dead body and asked to identify it. She was shown the bodies of 2 men the first time and 3 men the second time, but none of them were her little brother. She said the number of dead bodies clearly doesn't match the official reports. The most recent official update says 302 people were killed as of noon today. A Chinese scholar tells Radio Free Asia that the massive amount of information on social media shatters the credibility of the Communist Party's official figures, and the list of missing victims continues to grow.
The Biden administration is showing that it's committed to Taiwan's self-defense against China. On Wednesday, the State Department approved its first arms sale to Taiwan. The transaction is valued at $750 million. The approved purchase included 40 self-propelled howitzers. These are self-propelled artillery units. They could be used to defend Taiwan from Chinese invasion. The department says the sale will help improve the security of the recipient and assist in maintaining political stability and military balance in the region. It added that the transaction also serves U.S. national economic and security interests. Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs welcomed the move, saying it demonstrated the U.S.'s commitment to Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party condemned the sale. On Thursday, China's foreign ministry said the action will jeopardize China-U.S. relations and that it's against international law. They also said China will take countermeasures. This isn't the first time China has warned the Biden administration against weapon sales to Taiwan. Earlier this year, Beijing told the administration to undo former President Trump's support of Taiwan, which they framed as a dangerous practice. Last year, Trump approved sales of $1.8 billion worth of weapons to the Democratic Island. President Biden on Thursday offered temporary safe haven to Hong Kong residents in the U.S. This allows thousands of people to extend their stay for up to 1.5 years. In a memo, Biden said over the last year, the People's Republic of China has continued its assault on Hong Kong's autonomy, undermining its remaining democratic processes and institutions, imposing limits on academic freedom, and cracking down on freedom of the press. Biden added offering safe haven for Hong Kong residents who have been deprived of their guaranteed freedoms in Hong Kong furthers United States interests in the region. The United States will not waver in our support of the people in Hong Kong. A senior administration official pointed out the vast majority of Hong Kong residents currently in the U.S. are eligible for the program. Hong Kong is a former British colony and returned to Beijing's control in 1997. Back then, Beijing promised not to change the city's economic and political systems for 50 years, until 2047. Beijing's regulatory crackdown on Chinese firms is sending shockwaves through stock markets. American investors are worried about backing Chinese companies, but questions are raised. Why is Beijing doing this to Chinese-owned companies? NTD's Don Ma has more.
Beijing's regulatory crackdowns on major Chinese firms is causing companies to lose hundreds of billions of dollars in stock value. Investors are more wary than ever about investing in Chinese firms. The latest casualty from the crackdown is China's after-school tutoring industry. Beijing laid down a harsh regulation that banned private teaching firms from earning profits and raising capital. Companies were also not permitted to hire foreigners as teachers. The regulation resulted in investor sell-offs that erased more than $1 trillion in value from Chinese equities. Affected companies include major players like ByteDance. The firm had a stake in the education sector, and now it could be laying off hundreds of its employees. Many Chinese firms have been hit by Beijing's recent crackdowns, major companies such as Alibaba, Tencent, Didi, and others. So why is Beijing doing this to its own Chinese-owned companies? Commentators offer a number of explanations. One told Chinese-owned newspaper South China Morning Post it's because these companies are getting too big, and Beijing is nervous about the tech firm's power. For example, companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon have a huge influence on customer behavior and the economy. On rare occasions, even public policy. They have enormous amounts of data on users, infrastructure, and transportation. This is the case with some major Chinese tech companies as well, and this power may not be necessarily used in line with the regime's goals. Another told South China Morning Post that a reason could also be that Beijing is concerned about Chinese companies' data falling into the hands of foreign countries. This could have been the case with the crackdown on Chinese ride-hailing firm Didi when it tried to go public on the US stock market. Didi has a huge archive of potentially sensitive data. It includes Chinese infrastructure and the real-time locations of large numbers of Chinese citizens. Beijing was likely worried that this data would go to US regulators in the process of Didi going public. Don Ma, NTD News.
German prosecutors this week charged a German-Italian woman with espionage on suspicion of being an informant for Chinese intelligence for several years. They say Clara K. is the wife of another suspect, Klaus L., who was arrested on suspicion of espionage last month. The indictment filed in a Munich court says the couple allegedly passed information to Chinese intelligence in exchange for paid trips and money. Prosecutors said the information was primarily gleaned from high-ranking political contacts made through their work for a think tank. German fashion house Hugo Boss set ambitious sales targets Wednesday. Its new CEO says the company wants to double sales by 2025 to nearly $5 billion. It also aims to restore its operating profit margin to 12% by 2025. Its new CEO, the former head of Tommy Hilfiger, took over in June. He says he wants to make Hugo Boss one of the world's top 100 global brands. He plans to spend more than $118 million from now to 2025. The company reported a rebound in sales in the second quarter, particularly in Britain and China. Its recovery in China came despite calls for a boycott of Western brands in late March. It was over Western concerns about forced labor in Xinjiang. And that's all for today's China in Focus. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.